Hey, welcome back. Give me a break today because I am shooting this video on a brand new phone and I have all brand new apps, brand new everything. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we're going to go with it and just see where it takes us. First, I want to welcome you to a brand new series. We're going to be starting a 3-part series today all about mask. And how exciting is that? Because we just witnessed this message just about a week ago, because we were at Crossroads Christian Camp over in Anderson, South Carolina, and we had a great week. If you missed it, please make plans to come next year. It is amazing, and you're going to love it. But today we're going to be talking about different masks that we put on, and specifically today we're going to be talking about the mask of the chameleon. See, the chameleon is a great creature. Like, it's really cool. And if you've never seen one up and close, you may have seen one, but just didn't see it. Because the chameleon has a way of blending into their surroundings. They get on a brown tree or a green tree or whatever. If you've seen Rango, I think Rango was a chameleon. You could blend into different things. But often, listen, what we do as Christians, we do just that. And maybe we do it in different capacities. I know for myself, I was always a chameleon for the wrong reasons. I would get into a crowd or a group of people that didn't think like me, they weren't raised like me, they didn't have the same values as I did, and I would blend in and try to fit in their conversations, whether it meant telling a bad joke or whether it meant doing some bad things. I just was easily manipulated by whatever crowd that I was around. Today we're going to start out in a passage, Galatians 2:11 through 13. And I'm going to be reading from the NLT, so please follow along. If you have a different version, it might sound a little bit different, but it's all the same concept. Peter here, just to set a little backstage, Peter here is eating with the Gentiles. He's fellowshipping with the Gentiles. You know, these group of believers were new to the faith. And Peter was like, you know what? Hey, they're all a part of the family of God. I'm just going to gather with these guys and do what they do. Then all of a sudden, some people that were Jewish, that Peter knew very well, started to criticize how Peter was interacting with these Gentiles. Then all of a sudden, Peter kind of pulls back and starts hanging out with the Jewish people. And he's like, I'm going to go back to my old ways in the law because I'm comfortable with these people and they're really giving me a hard time for being with you Gentiles. And Paul calls him out. Paul says, yo, listen, Peter, you're being a hypocrite. Like, what you were doing before was fine because we're all under grace, we're all God's people, and you're interacting with God's children. But now you're pulling back from them and really leading other people astray from what you've done. So let's just start in Galatians 2, verse 11, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to read from this computer monitor. I don't have it memorized. Sorry about that. But when Peter came to Antioch, I had to oppose him to his face. For what he did was very wrong. When he first arrived, he ate with the Gentile believers who were not circumcised. But afterward, when some friends of James came, Peter wouldn't eat with the Gentiles anymore. He was afraid of criticism from these people who insisted on the necessity of circumcision. As a result, other Jewish believers followed Peter's hypocrisy, and even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy. Verses 14 right here. When I saw that they were not following the truth of the gospel message, I said to Peter in front of all the others, since you, a Jew by birth, had discarded the Jewish laws and are living like a Gentile, why are you now trying to make these Gentiles follow the Jewish traditions? I love Paul's boldness here. Listen, I would hate to be on the other end of a letter written by Paul that's this rebuking and chastising. I would hate to be called out by Paul in front of a group of believers. It would be embarrassing. But Paul had that authority. Paul had been given that authority. He earned that respect. And people listened to Paul, whether they liked him or not. he was somebody to be listened to. But I think that's because Paul didn't wear a mask. Paul wore no mask here. He was transparent. He was vulnerable in front of everybody else. We hear Paul saying things like, yeah, I'm the worst of sinners. We hear Paul saying, I know the things which I should do and I don't do them. These are things that Paul said in his ministry. So I think the first point here is going along with the crowd to gain acceptance or importance hides the person God has created us to be. See, God created us uniquely. He created you as you with your personality, your characteristics. And when we change that part of who we are to fit in with somebody else, we're really playing a fake role. You know, a hypocrite was originally an actor. That's what they would call an actor. So being a hypocrite, wearing a mask of a chameleon, means that you're just putting something over your face and you're pretending to be something that you're actually not. Something that God never designed you to be. And often I think we do that. We've all fallen prey to that at one point in our lives. We've all tried to fit in with a group. We've gone somewhere. Maybe we hold back some things. Maybe we don't say what we want to say because of fear that somebody will reject us. Or maybe we say something that we wouldn't have said because of the group that we're around. Another point here is pleasing others to fit in prevents you from living your best life. So if you're constantly living your life to please people, and listen, we got some people pleasers in this room, and I'll be the first to raise my hand, but really you're just looking out for other people's opinions of you, and you're pleasing others, and it really holds you back from living freely with who God has called you to be. You know, there's always like this thing with people pleasers. They're always captive to the opinions that others hold of them. Meaning, there's no freedom to live in the way that God created them to live. There's no freedom in their decisions because their decisions really belong to the opinions of others. And honestly, people pleasers live their whole life revolved around the opinions of other people. In fact, I don't think they really ever embrace who they are, their personality, their characteristics, and it always leaves them as a ball of anxiety, right? Like, think of a people pleaser as somebody with clenched fist, never open to enjoy life, never open and not having the freedom to just let it all out there. How do you know people will accept the real you if you're never the real you? So pleasing others to fit in prevents you from living your best life. But also, I think wearing a mask to go along with the crowd can hurt your spiritual life and those of others. Think about Peter here. Peter was doing all the right things in the beginning. He was eating with Gentiles. He was welcoming the Gentiles into the body of Christ, and he wasn't putting any stipulations on it. God accepted them, so Peter accepted them. Well, all of a sudden now the Jews are not accepting of what Peter is doing here. And so Peter actually hurts his spiritual life in a way where he pulls back. And he's like, the Gentile community, they can be on their own. I'm going to stick with the Jewish community because I'm comfortable with that. Well, also people follow Peter's lead. And so people are looking at Peter like, Peter, you're pulling away from the Gentiles? Okay, maybe we should too. Instead of embracing that community and that relationship, that new relationship with Gentile believers, Peter says, I did it, but it wasn't right for me to do that because these people think it's wrong. So Peter not only hurts his own spiritual walk, but he hurts the spiritual walk of those that looked up to him. So I think we have some action items here to consider throughout this whole story. You know, the first thing that you have to do, and this is a process, this isn't going to happen overnight. When you're around people, especially when you're trying to blend in and you've been around that friend group, maybe that you're not yourself around, you're going to have to be honest with yourself. You know, honest with yourself, like, are these really people that I could see myself around as my real self? Because if the answer to that is no, and if these people wouldn't accept the real you, then you're probably in the wrong place anyways, and you're playing the mask of a chameleon. Because God, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to that friend group and be a good witness and a good testimony to them, but you have to be yourself and who God has called you to be. But spend more time with safe friends as well. And by safe friends, this is what I mean. Those friends that you can be yourself, be vulnerable, be free, just like we've had this past week or so with those students around us. These are your safe friends, most of them. These safe friends, they won't judge you for being vulnerable. They won't judge you at family time for sharing your heart, your struggles. Most of them want to come alongside of you. Most of them want to see you flourish in your Christian walk. Most of them understand it's not about you and it's not about them. It's all about God. These friends will help you grow in your faith. These friends are where you want to be when you're going through the hard times in life. But these friends are also the friends you want around when you're going through the good times, when you're living on the mountaintops. Listen, there's celebration and you can be your full free self here. I think most of us will agree that we want to be a community of realness. We want truth. We don't want that fakeness. We don't want to be hypocrites. But it's going to be very tempting when you get out back into school, when you get around those group of friends that you haven't been around for a while, and you're cutting jokes in class and you're trying to be that cool kid. It's going to be really tempting to go back to those ways of fakeness. It's going to be really tempting to just slip that chameleon mask out of your pocket, pull it over and go, hey, did you hear that dirty joke? You know, did you hear what he said? Oh, look what he's wearing. I got to get me some of those. Look what she's wearing. I got to get me that. When you start playing the comparison game, it's easy to put that chameleon mask back on. And it actually holds us back. Not only does it hold us back, it holds others back. But more than being honest with yourself, I think we got to be honest with God. Listen, He already knows everything about you. And yet He still loves you completely. Like, God knows everything about us and He still loves us completely. That just astonishes me. Let's look at Hebrews 4:13. It says, nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before His eyes, and He is the one to whom we are accountable. Now, I know I got your attention there because I said the word naked. Let's just get that out of the way. Think back in the Garden of Eden, right? With Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, they're not supposed to eat of the tree, but yet they do. The forbidden tree, they eat of the forbidden tree, and now they notice their nakedness, and they hide. That's what we do when we feel exposed. We hide. So when we have the mask off, right? Or maybe we're trying to put on the mask to hide things. You know, when we're living with the mask off, we're vulnerable. It's uncomfortable. But when we put the mask on and we're chameleons, we feel a little bit of comfort knowing that maybe people can't see what we're trying to hide. But God sees past all of that. God sees underneath the mask. He knows who you are. You're not fooling Him. Everything is exposed before God's eyes. He knows exactly who you are from the inside out. And ultimately, He is the one that we're accountable to. So if you're trying to hide from yourself, sure, you can fake yourself out a little bit. Maybe you've tricked yourself into thinking this is who I really am, when in reality it's not. But when you get in front of God, you have to face reality. And if you don't, you'll constantly be on the run. You'll constantly be putting the mask on. But God will never be fooled, and God will always point out what's underneath the mask. So as you're going throughout the rest of this week, as you're gearing up for school, as you're getting ready to go out back into the real world, right? That's what we call the real world. Notice those times where you start to slip that mask over your face, where you start to really put on the chameleon mask, where you're trying to fit in with a group, where you're saying things you normally wouldn't say, when you're withholding things that God places on your heart to please people. Don't be a chameleon. Be vulnerable. Be bold in your relationship with God. Walk with those safe friends, the ones that you can be yourself with, the ones that encourage you to get it all out there on the table and to be honest with yourself, honest with your friends, honest with your parents, honest with your pastor, honest with your leaders, honest with everybody around you, and most importantly, honest with God. Because if you're trying to be something that you're not, you're going to live miserable. You're going to live like you're always in hiding. So the challenge today is to just break free from those chains. Take off the mask. Give it to God. And be who He has called you to be. Thank you for checking out our YouTube page today. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And you know what? While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe as well. And if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, go ahead and hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any notifications. Thank you and have a great day.